The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. My guest this hour is a young man by the name of Temujin, and we're going to be talking to him about his new book that is just out. It's called The Rage. Now, Temujin is a hardworking American who graduated from the University of Southern California with a BA in East Asian languages and cultures. He's lived in many different places and worked a variety of jobs. More recently, he spent most of his time in Kuwait, California, and now Colorado, doing either professional armed security or running a small online used book business. He's been writing screenplays for a hobby for about 15 years. The Rage is his first novel and is strongly influenced by his efforts to cultivate an attitude of grace in his life. And Temujin, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great having you here. Tell us a little bit about The Rage.
The Rage, it's about two men, Roland and Nicholas, whose traumatic life circumstances drive them to drugs, crime, and murder. The story begins with Roland, who grew up poor and abused, as he gives up on society and immerses himself in being a criminal, which mostly involves stealing, but often involves killing. For Nicholas, he was raised wealthy and comfortable, but his tragedy leads him to first just training for self-defense, but this becomes an obsession with combat arts and revenge, hunting down the man who took his life from him. Both these guys start off very differently, but after a few years they start looking the same, and they become very capable criminals, and they almost cross paths over the years, but finally when a mysterious criminal racket tries to recruit Roland and kill off Nicholas, it actually drives the two men closer together in what looks like it's going to end in a lot of violence. But this happens at a time when both these men are beginning to question their choices. So that's what The Rage is about.
You served in the U.S. military, working in private security in Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And this is a quote from you. A lot of people get their faith shaken when they go overseas to fight. I heard combat veterans talking about doing their job and wondering, am I still a good person even though I did what I did? How difficult is that for you and other members who go overseas to fight, to rationalize the different emotions and the different scenarios that you see on a daily basis? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, I need to correct something. I got out of the military in the 90s, and all my security experience is actually private security. And actually, I've never seen combat. Even in all my security experience, the closest I've been to an IED was about a kilometer away.
That's close enough.
But I've interacted with a lot of these combat vets. I've had similar training, and I've been on the roads in Iraq and driven around and had to have the same concerns that they did, but with less actual combat experience. But in studying security and then talking to these people, you have to be prepared for for the worst case scenario. This is what I'm talking about when I mention that you go overseas as a soldier and you're told to kill.
Yeah.
And that's just war. War in itself, I believe, is an atrocity. It's you can't get around it. It's just part of the world. But you send a soldier off, and he's supposed to kill, and he gets very good at that. And he goes and he kills, and then one day he shoots something that he's supposed to shoot at, and he finds out later on that it's a car full of a family of 4, probably on their way to school or work. And your soldier once told me, when I first went over to Iraq, and I was, killing people, and I was doing my job, and it was all fun. I was doing what I was told to do. But the longer you're there, the more you're interacting with the locals. You learn the language. You drink with them, drink tea with them.
Temujin, I hate to do this, but we've got to take our 2-minute commercial break. Please stand by. Okay. Exonation. Temujin Hu is our special guest. He is the author of The Rage. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone, and Temujin Hu and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break in 2 minutes. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. Temujin Hu is our special guest. He is the author of The Rage. It's a new inspirational crime novel. It explores the issues of wickedness and redemption. His website is www.temujinhu.com. Now that's www.temujinhu.com. And The Rage is available in print. It's available on Kindle, and it's published by Badlander Publishing. And it just came out, so congratulations on your first book. I understand that you're also a screenwriter.
I wrote screenplays on this as a hobby for about 15 years, mostly focusing on one, but I started a few others. But I always had plot problems. And that's why I ended up eventually turning to a novel format. screenplay's got to be very tight. It's got to be
Right.
120 pages. But a novel, you can basically let yourself go. So
Yeah.
that's why I tried out a novel, was to attempt to work out my plot issues.
Now, Temujin, before we started this segment, you and I were talking about what it's like for the soldiers in Iraq. They go over there, they do their job, but the longer they're there, the longer they get to know the people. So,
Yes.
where does it go from here? And how do they? First of all, are they supposed to draw the line between soldier and civilian? And how easily is it crossed?
It's way too easy to cross. I mean, whether you're a soldier, and even as doing private security, it gets even more fuzzy, because the law is not on your side if you make a mistake. But you have to be able to, when in war, you can shoot first, because you're automatically in a combat scenario. In security, you can't shoot first. You have to make sure that you're not shooting at the wrong people. Either way, you end up shooting at people, and you need to be able to distinguish a threat from a not threat, which is very difficult in a situation like Iraq, where you've got an insurgency going on, where you have friendly people that look like they're friendly but are actually not. And so it's very easy for you to do something and later on realize it might not have been the best thing, or you do something right and it still looks bad. It still feels bad. And you still have that, no matter how much, everyone says, hey, you did the right thing, you still walk away and you go, well, that person doesn't look like a bad guy. In my head, it looks like the person I eat breakfast with, I drink tea with. It looks like my friend. The more it looks like a real person, no matter how just the shooting was, it still can, and you can still take that away from you so it's something tough to deal with emotionally. And I think a lot of soldiers return. That's what the PTSD and all this mental struggles they have when they come back. No matter how good a soldier you were, no matter how, even if you weren't around the killing, if you didn't do the killing yourself, you're just around it, it can still mess up your thinking, and you start to doubt whether you did was good. You start feeling bad. You start have all the guilt. And that's part of the inspiration for the story, was just dealing with, am I a good person? Am I still a good person? I don't think you have to be a soldier to relate to that. Anyone that deals with any kind of stress or trauma deals with, survivor guilt. You get into an accident and everyone dies but you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same kind of feeling. You start feeling guilty, even though there's not really any reason for you to feel guilty. And all those kind of things can play into the mental stress that people deal with, and the mental stresses mess up our judgment and character, and that's when we start making bad decisions.
So how do you deal with this multiplicity of emotions, and what are you trying to get across to your readers in your book?
I don't think there is any good one solid answer for how to deal with it. The way I deal with my depression in the past has always been to tell myself to suck it up, which is exactly what people going through depressions don't want to hear. But it works for me. But I think the first step is hope, instilling hope. And I think that's what I try to do with the book. And it takes you get through the whole book to get to that part. But ultimately, you have to have a hope that this isn't the end, that there is a better end. And then from there, you can start making positive choices towards that end. I think one of those, in order for there to be a possibility of hope, you have to be okay with where you're at emotionally. So, and that's one of the things about being a soldier and being in that any paramilitary environment, even about cop, security, the atmosphere is very macho. So if you have PTSD, you get made fun of. If you have nightmares, you get made fun of. And so there's a stigma attached to it, that you go out in society and you pretend like you're okay when you're not. And it prevents you from dealing with it in a healthy way. And I think that's definitely true in the military environment, but I think a lot of people that are depressed and are going through mental stress feel the same thing. They feel like they can't acknowledge their troubles. they're, like, and that's one reason why I think I've been very successful with my depression in the past, is because I've never not been able to talk about my issues. I'm very open about my darkness. I've been depressed. I've had suicidal thoughts. I'm very open about some of my mistakes I've made. I've been fired, and that was a horrible experience for me. I've 3 times in my life I've made really solid vows to God, and I've broken all 3 vows. So I feel like a person with no integrity. One time I dated this girl, and she was so excited to be dating, someone who was supposedly a man of God, and then I treated her worse than any boyfriend she'd ever dated. And I looked, and I've learned from that. I made a lot of mistakes. So I guess my point is I'm open about my mistakes. And I think that's one reason why I can get over my issues, and why I've never need counseling. It's because I think I automatically do stuff that gives me that hope. But like I said, it's particularly true in my experience in military or security, any paramilitary environment, law enforcement, where there's a stigma against the emotional strain and acknowledging it and dealing with it. But I think that stigma also exists in society in a different level, in a slightly different way, because I know a lot of people feel like they can't admit that they're depressed.
It's just as if people feel that if they admit they're depressed, society will look down on them. Why do we have to subject people within society to that kind of pressure? Why can't we just say, hey, you know what? Depression is a fact of life. You're human. How can we help you?
Yeah. It's a common theme, and if you look up blogs online on depression and read books, it's a common issue.
Tell me, how did your situation affect your relationship with God? Did it make it tighter? Did it make you question His existence more?
I think some of the soldiers I talked to went overseas, and they, with a lot of faith, and they came back with a lot of lack of faith, or with a lot of doubts. For me, it's because part of the way I came to faith. I came to faith through apologetics, through studying, science and philosophy and reason, and trying to make good academic, discuss. Is this a good choice for me? And so for me, my faith is based on truth. That's one of the reasons why when I'm depressed, I can always tell myself to suck it up, because to me, the Bible is true. I can always say, you know what, if this is true, I need to live as if it's true. And so I can look at my situation and say, I'm wrong. And so for me, the circumstances don't, I still have, everyone is going to every now and then go, you know what, I wonder if this is true. Am I wasting my time? But I always go back to all the reasons why I committed my life to Christ, and I can say, I know this is true, and therefore I can change my thinking, my behavior, and that's how I get through it. And I haven't had my faith shaken no matter what kind of circumstances I've been in. But a lot of other people have, and I think it's because a lot of people think that faith is about ignorance. It's about blind faith. It's about believing something no matter what science tells you. And if that's the kind of faith you have, when you're faced with the reality of a harsh circumstance, you're going to start questioning that faith, because the reason isn't there. The truth isn't there. So that's how I've dealt with it. And my faith is stronger today than it's ever been. And it's no matter what I've gone through, I've always been able to rest on my faith, rest on the truth that I believe in.
You say that, and this is a quote, somebody asked you how you define rage, and you said, the mess of emotions and thoughts and confusion that life sometimes throws at us, and which we sometimes find ourselves unable to break free from. Sometimes it can be caused by a single event, but often it's a series of events that may not seem so bad when they're seen individually, such as the seemingly common address of being overworked or loneliness.
I've experienced both of those things, and both of those things can lead you to bad decisions if you're not careful. I've been lonely in the Navy and got down on myself and proceeded to find strip bars and intentionally trying to make myself broke. I've been fatigued and overworked, and started, putting myself around people that were using illicit drugs. And I never actually used them,
Yeah.
but if I had stayed around them much longer, I would have. And once you start down that kind of road, it's very hard to get off that track, and it's very easy to go back on that track. So I've been very lucky. I've just been barely able to avoid some really bad decisions, but I've seen how easy it is to, the innocence of working really hard.
Sure.
And how that can wear you down emotionally.
Temujin, please stand by, young man. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, we're talking to the author of The Rage. His name is Temujin Ho, and his website is www.temujinhu.com, and that's TEMUJINHU.com. The name of his book is The Rage, and Temujin Hu and I will be back on the other side of this break with our news. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies,
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows,
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net. Welcome back, everyone. My guest this hour is Temujin Hu. He is the author of The Rage. His website is www.temujinhu.com. What was the hardest part about writing this book?
The hardest part was actually keeping my peace of spirit, I would say. It's difficult to stay positive and hopeful when you're focusing on the inner thoughts of people doing wicked things. And I tend to empathize, so often I felt dark and demonic forces around me. And finally I turned to like positive Christian radio stations to kind of break me out of the darkness. I had to take the story to that level of evil, though, because I wanted to do the context justice so that the reader would feel fully engaged. But that was one of my struggles is there's so much, all the focus on these negative. Like one scene in particular was a steroid rage, a roid rage that one of the characters was going through, and it's just all the things, just trying to emotionally describe a person that's tiny little things are grating on them. And as I was writing it and describing it, like I said, I empathize. I tend to go there. And so, I got very dark, and I don't want to be dark. I don't want to be a dark person. I don't want to think dark thoughts. So, by the end of the story, I was actually not listening to anything but what I thought would be positive and uplifting music, and attempting to put myself in situations that would be more like, out in parks, So I would not stay in that dark place.
So would you say that writing The Rage was also helping you to face your demons?
It's cathartic. It helps. Anytime you write something like this, it helps put out your stuff that you've got inside, and anytime, like if you're struggling with something, I think if you write it or talk about it or express it, it helps to get it out there, and just expressing it helps. And so, writing the book definitely helped me sort out my spiritual journey of the past 10 years, where I've basically learned about grace. And actually, the theme of the book developed as I was writing it too. A lot of the specific stuff. It's not how I would write a book again. I didn't do it intentionally, but a lot of the stuff kind of developed as I wrote it. So it ended up like it wasn't the book I intended to write. It was the book I needed to write. Just dealing with all the emotions and experiences and relationships, and acknowledging, for myself, I still deal with self-doubt and self-hate. I still deal with those kind of thoughts, and I still have to fight them off. So the book has a message that I need to hear as well, that I need to remind myself as well, that I'm okay, that I don't have to be good enough, that no one is good enough, and that I can accept. If I can accept myself, I can accept everybody, and if I can accept everybody, I can accept myself. So,
I guess it goes back to that old saying: if you don't love yourself, no one else will.
Yeah, and I think that's true. It's hard for people to love you if you don't love yourself, because you tend to do things that are destructive to relationships around you. So,
what has been the feedback that you've gotten from friends and family who've had the opportunity of reading The Rage?
Initially, I think the initial reaction is surprise, because it is so dark. One person was almost angry at me, and I'm like, how can you think that a Christian would want to read this book?
Well, wait a second. When we look at, did you say how a Christian or how a person could read this book?
A Christian. It was a context of, because I'm a Christian, and so it should be a Christian book. And I think it is a Christian book, but it doesn't look like a Christian book.
Well, look at the Bible. There's a lot of hate, killing, and a lot of negativity in the Bible, and it's the number one Christian book.
Yeah. There is a lot of killing in the Bible. Yeah. I don't think there's a lot of hate killing directed from God. There is a lot of hate in the Bible, but that's not the context isn't.
Yeah.
That's not what's coming from God. But I think the idea that some Christians have is that as a Christian, everything's got to be family friendly and nice and wonderful and pretty, when actually the reality is life tends to be really dark. If you can't address that darkness, then you can't deal with people. And I think that's one of the hang-ups that a lot of Christians have, is they can't relate to people because they don't acknowledge the darkness that's in their own life.
You see, you said it right there. People, people live in a little glass bubble, and anything that doesn't, conform to their little glass bubble or their own idea of what life should be like, it rubs them the wrong way. When life itself is hard.
It is. Yes.
Yeah, and I applaud you for getting people to read your book, and by doing that, they're seeing your demons, and then in turn they start facing their own.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I understand you're trying to turn this into a screenplay.
Well, always. That's where I started my writing, and that's where I probably would want to go back to it. But again, it's tricky. I went to the novel format to get out of my plot issues, and I still haven't quite figured out how to turn this into something that would fit into a screenplay. Maybe a more like a TV show might be more. It might be easy to adapt. I don't know. But still looking at different options. But again, I'm not. I don't know. Definitely something I'm looking at, but I haven't quite figured out how to make it into a movie.
Well, I'm sure given time you'll figure that out.
Yeah,
really do.
Yeah, it's a process.
Tell me, In your bio, it says The Rage is his first novel and is strongly influenced by his efforts to cultivate an attitude of grace in his life.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that you're trying to cultivate an attitude of grace in your life?
Well, most people, when they become a Christian, if you didn't grow up in a Christian environment, if you become a Christian later on, what tends to happen is you get very legalistic and you get very forceful with your faith, and that's what happened to me. I got very legalistic, and it wasn't necessarily very negative, but it wasn't positive. I went to Kuwait in 2004, and when I came back, all my friends told me I was a lot easier to deal with and to be around, and I realized it was because I wasn't trying to dump a lot of stuff for them to do on them all, and I was one of those people that was actually doing it. I was actually being good. I wouldn't even speed. I wouldn't go a mile per hour over the speed limit. But all that stuff, no matter how good you try to be, you're still not good enough, and you're still not perfect. And I think I had to learn to relax and lighten up on myself, and then I was able to lighten up on other people. And I think also I have to learn things the hard way. just the way I am. A lot of us are like this. I had to make a lot of mistakes before I realized just how easy it is to make mistakes. And I mentioned a few of those mistakes. I've been fired. And I think as you go along, you realize I am looking at people judgmentally, and I need to stop that, because what I need to realize is I'm judging myself is where it starts, and then I'm judging other people. If you're legalistic, you're telling yourself, I have to be this way.
Yes.
And therefore, you're going to look at other people and you go, they should be that way too. But if you can lighten up on yourself and cultivate the attitude of grace and go, I'm okay, I don't have to be perfect, I can just do my best, and that's okay, then you can look at other people that way. And I think it's taken a while, and I'm still in the process. No one's perfect, I'm not perfect at it. But I think I'm much better at, it's like when you're interacting with people, if you focus on the way they're behaving, you're not going to be able to reach that person. Like one of the soldiers I spoke with that I've mentioned already, he had coping mechanisms to deal with his stress that basically made him a little bit antisocial. And some people could relate to him, and some people hated him. And if you look at the things that he did and say, oh, that guy's an immature jerk, whatever, you're not going to see that he's actually a person with a lot of hurts and pain. So you have to look past a person's actions and be able to accept them as they are, and to get past those actions and to understand where they're coming from. And then often when you do that, you realize they're not actually a bad person. And that's actually what I get into with the rage, something that actually comes up throughout the story with some of the character interactions is, what if this person that seems to be such an awful person is actually just doing the best they can and doesn't know any better, or doesn't know how to behave differently? What if that person grew up differently? What if that person grew up with a father that loved them and was there for them and taught them how to make good decisions? He didn't have that. So he had instead was raised to be a criminal, essentially. And so can you get mad at that person for the things they do, even though they hurt you? Or can you look past that and understand them? And if you can get past it and get to know them and talk to them, that's when you can reach them and you can get that change in behavior.
Do you think do you think society has a lot to learn yet when dealing with people who are troubled, who are depressed, who just come back from a tour in Afghanistan, Iraq, or any other part of the military? Are we doing enough for our military?
I don't think we are doing enough. I think, and it's not necessarily the military's fault, but I think they could do more to train people, to prepare them for what they're doing. So many veterans come back, and I talked to a therapist who had a client who would yell at her and stuff, and she had to yell back and say, hey, you need to let the people around you know what you're going through. Like I said, there's this stigma. There's this thing that prevents people from talking about it. But these soldiers come back, and they've got all this emotional trouble, and it becomes a cost, a burden on society, because they're going to destroy all the relationships when they come home. And then when you destroy a family, when you destroy friendship. You're destroying society. You're destroying the base. The family is a strong, sound base for society. And if you destroy families get broken. That harms society. And so I think the cost of the war on American society isn't just material, it's also social. It's not good for these people to come back and have all their relationships destroyed because they don't know how to deal with these problems, with these emotions, with these struggles.
How can that be changed then? What can society, what can you and I do to help change this?
I don't know. I think I'll give an example.
Okay.
I was with a group of guys, and they were a Christian Bible study actually, and it was actually overseas. And the culture was such that you don't talk about your problems. And one of the guys seemed kind of down and quiet, and I said, and I talked to the other guys, and they said, well, he's depressed, and they said he's sad. But what the thing was, he was depressed, and apparently he's depressed all the time. And I asked these guys, I said, what are you? You know that he's sad, you know that he's depressed. What are you doing to help him? The answer was nothing, because that's what you do in that society, and that's what we do in our society too as well. We do it in a little bit different ways. But I think the first thing you need to do is we need to talk to each other, and we need to be willing to ask people hard questions.
Yeah.
We need to be willing to put ourselves out there and say, hey, brother, I'm here for you. If you need anything, come talk to me. And you might have to do more than that, too. You might have to actually follow up on that person and find out what they're doing, because they may not want to tell you that they're spending copious amounts of time alone, brooding, that's not healthy.
It's so sad to hear that there are people who are just keeping everything inside, and it just like you said, it keeps boiling because they don't have anyone, or they don't think they have anyone to listen to them. And if a person was just to sit down and say, what's on your mind, and they get it off their chest, that's the pressure valve that so many people need, and yet nobody wants to listen.
Yeah. I think if we listen to other people's problems, we have to acknowledge that we have problems ourselves.
Sure.
If we don't want to do that, I think a lot of people maybe have known someone that committed suicide, or known someone whose friend committed suicide, and no one even knew they were depressed. And to me, that's just like that's got to be the worst feeling. And you'd think that would motivate people to want to talk about stuff, but it doesn't. We still hold it in. So.
Temujin, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Great talking to you. Exonation, Temujin Hu is our special guest. He's the author of The Rage. His website, www.temujinhu.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues. We're right here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We'll be back. And by the way, to all our American listeners, next Monday, I believe, is Columbus Day. Happy Columbus Day. And to all our Canadian listeners, happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking to Temujin Hu. He is the author of The Rage. His website is www.temujinhu.com. How close are you actually to finding the grace in your life that you're looking for?
I don't think I'll ever be where I want to be. I think I'll get more and more free of the negative thoughts and the wrong thinking as I go, and I expect. I've seen in myself how I've improved myself over the years. I've made myself a better person, but I think it's a process, and I think if you accept that it's a process, you can accept where you are and know that you're getting better. I think that's the most important thing.
I agree with you 100%, and not too many people realize that it's a process, that change isn't overnight.
Yeah.
And I think that in today's society, because of our vast speed of which we live in and the modern day of communications, which is instantaneous, people expect life to be instantaneous, and it's anything but that.
That's true.
Do you have any new books coming out? Are you working on any screenplays that you can share with us?
I'm working on a variety of things, and basically I'll work on things until one of them starts to look really strong, and then I'll focus on that. I'm working on a sequel to The Rage, which will take the characters into the arena of human trafficking in America, and also touch on homosexuality, which is, I think they're both relevant and current topics that I think people will relate to, and that's going to be the context for the ongoing crime drama.
I'll tell you something, human trafficking is a big problem, and I'm glad you're going to be bringing it up, yeah.
It's bigger than, I think the bigness of it is, it's amazing that it's going on around us, we don't even realize it. You know, we're purchasing products, we don't realize it's actually a slave helped manufacture that product. But there's also there's organized crime element in that too, and that's where I'm going to kind of bring it in to the story, because the story involves, The Rage involves organized crime and gangs and rackets, and so I'm going to kind of string it along in that direction. I'm also working on an allegorical fantasy that will deal with a prince, a vagrant helping out a prince, and then there's also working on a satire based on my experiences doing security in Afghanistan.
My goodness, you're a busy young man.
I try to stay busy.
What would you like to say to our listeners? We've got about 60 seconds. It's my desire to be an encouragement, inspiration to everyone. I want everyone to feel like they're blessed every day, every way. I want people to believe in themselves and to strive for. It's easy to strive for excellence when you're doing something you love. I did a lot of things I liked, but I didn't get published until I quit my job and decided to be a writer full time. So I think I want people to believe in themselves and believe what they can do, and to pursue their dreams. And it's because of people like you bringing this to the forefront and letting people know that they're human, that we all share these same problems, these same challenges, these same dilemmas in our lives, that they will come to understand that they're not alone. And I want to thank you so much for joining us this hour. Temujin, it's been a great pleasure. Continued success, and I look forward to the next time you join us here in the X Zone.
Thank you.
Take care, buddy. Exonation, our guest this hour has been Temujin Hu. He's the author of The Rage website, www.temujinhu.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the hour as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Visit our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com, and archives are always free at xzonepodcast.com. Happy Columbus Day and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.